Well, welcome everybody. Today we have Mykal Velozo with us, who is a passionate hairstylist as well as a philanthropist. He discovered the profound impact of giving haircuts to those in need and witnessing the uplifting effect firsthand. And I want to kind of just dive in with how did this come about? How did you get involved? I know it says here you've been the creator of 7 haircutting programs established within different nonprofits. You have hairstylists for humanity.org. Like there's a lot of giving back, a lot of philanthropy going on here. So where did you start? Obviously, as a hairstylist, it must have been a dream to go to hair school, or maybe you randomly fell into it. But where did you start and how'd you get here?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, to start, I would say, my mom, my dad, and my grandpa all were hairstylists or barbers, kind of pre when I was a baby, before I was the age of 1. And so I grew up a little bit around it with getting my hair cut, in our basement and everything. But believe it or not, I actually pursued a degree in psychology to become like a counselor or a psychologist. I didn't have a ton of interest in doing hair. And then I moved to LA, never visiting or anything. I just decided to move there. And it was after being there for a few years and, kind of seeing the fashion industry and the beauty industry in general that I started to kind of second guess and think, you know what, I think I could be good at this. I love people. There's still a little bit of that idea. Of course, they always say that if you're a hairstylist, you're a therapist. And I thought, even though I didn't finish the degree to become a psychologist, they kind of go hand in hand. And so I decided to go to school. And while I was in school, needed models, of course, all the time to practice. And when I was living in LA, I didn't know anybody. So I kind of started fresh. And I had met some people, but every time I would ask, like, hey, can you come into the school and be a guinea pig for me? Because I'm practicing layers or highlights or whatever it was. Everyone was very no, kind of thing. They were used to getting their hair done in Beverly Hills or Melrose or, just all these fancy places. And so I rode the bus one day and I had this bus driver and she was just so sweet. And it was over an hour bus ride. And she was telling me about how she, had all these kids and she was just so busy with work and she was a single mom. And I just fell in love with her and how sweet she was. And in my mind, I just thought, how can I get someone like Rosa in my chair to where I can, as a model, when I'm practicing and trying to get through schooling and learning, how can I treat her to something that I know that maybe she's not able to kind of direct those funds to right this moment. And then I'm also learning and doing what I should be doing. And it's kind of a win-win. And so I kind of had the idea at that point of reaching out to different shelters that were in the area near the school. I got a lot of no's and a lot of doors closed. I didn't quite understand why I was getting those no's, but looking back, it was because of being a male and a lot of the shelters had women. And so it just wasn't working. But I finally found a shelter that had 3 different locations and they loved the idea. So every single time that I was working on something, if it was bobs or short hair or wherever it was, I could contact the shelter and say, hey, can we set up a sign-up sheet? This is what I am in need of right this moment. And then I would go to the shelter and essentially have kind of a consultation, if you will, with someone, because as you know, having all the schools, you're a little bit more limited to what that model looks like because they don't quite have a say as far as exactly what they want. It has to fall within what you're actually learning in that moment. And for the rest of my schooling, I had people that were coming in from shelters to practice on them. And I saw the impact just at that moment where I was just like, it feels so great to help these people and be told, have people open up to me, even when I was in beauty school, about, some of the struggles that they were going through. And then one day I got all my classmates to participate and we did a full beauty day where we did cut and color on a bunch of people all from the shelter. And it was just incredible. So then I ended up moving back to Portland, and the hair world here is very different than Los Angeles, as you can probably guess. And I found myself for the first few years kind of feeling lost or feeling disconnected, if you will. I was in some really nice high-end salons and I felt very grateful to be in those, but they didn't really have apprenticeship opportunities and just wasn't the right crowd or the right environments. And I started to question if getting into hair was the right decision. And then I remembered all of my kind of work that I was doing with the different shelters. And I thought, how can I kind of give back essentially and help people? And so I started looking into different nonprofits locally and everything. And the first organization that I got involved with was called Dress for Success. And they're a worldwide organization, but they mainly help identifying women. There are a few different locations out there that do support men as well. But the majority of them are women based, and they're, helping people that are getting back on their feet, trying to get into jobs in the workforce. And it's mainly suiting and interview help and resume help and kind of all that. And so the hair related was very, kind of on par with the direction of what they were doing anyways, but it wasn't something that they actually offer. And so, I got involved in 2017 was kind of the first organization that I was able to start giving haircuts at. And I started going in there every week and was giving women haircuts, and it was just super impactful. And in that moment, I felt connected again. I felt like I was doing the right thing, and that I was just not using my skills and as a hairstylist how I needed to be. And so that kind of prompted me to pursue that more. And I decided to kind of stop being behind the chair in that moment and put more focus into volunteering and figuring out ways that I could get involved. And of course, there was that whole moment of, well, I got to pay bills, and I don't have, a Kardashian bank account or anything that will just support this so that I can just do it. And so, of course, I was still working and doing things on the side and everything so that I could do that. And a couple other Dress for Success locations caught wind of what I was doing. And so I created at 2 other locations a haircutting program. And then it kind of just snowballed to where I found the need, where I thought, you know what, everyone needs a haircut and everyone can be benefited by having their hair done. And I just would find a nonprofit that was doing beautiful things, which thankfully they're everywhere. And I would kind of introduce myself and say, hey, my name is Mykal and I'm a hairstylist, and I would love to come in here and give haircuts. And how do you feel about that? And then I've only been told no one time, and that no was only because of the woman thing again, where I wasn't able to get involved as a male. But other than that, everyone has just been, yeah, that would be great. Let's do it. And so the rest is kind of been history. And so being in the salon world and working behind the chair, people have asked me, they always say, hey, Mykal, how did you find this nonprofit, or how did you get involved? And a lot of time I just say, a lot of time I haven't been able to find something to get involved with. And so I've kind of just created the opportunity where I'll go into the place and just introduce myself and, get a tour of the place and see what would make the most sense, and just say, hey, this is what I would love to do. How would you feel about this? And all the places have just, loved the idea. And that has been it. So I've always been telling people, you can create your own opportunities. And I've over years been thinking, I thought, there's just such a need for this. How can I somehow turn this into something where, it's bigger than me, because I know that there's other people that are out there using their craft to make an impact. So how can I create a platform where I can elevate these other hairstylists and barbers that are out there doing beautiful things, whether it's, giving haircuts to people on the streets, or, they have their own organizations kind of in line with what I'm also doing, and just build a community, that builds each other up and celebrates each other with, what they're doing and how they're helping people, but also just creates opportunities in general where we can connect people and almost create an army, of people that are out there giving and helping. And that's how Hairstylists for Humanity was kind of born.
I love that. So kind of talk to we'll say future professionals or young people in the industry that have never volunteered, that are thinking about volunteering. Maybe they don't necessarily see the way to go about it. What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, Sean, that's a great question. I would say, a couple different things is hopefully, our website is growing and it continues to grow, which has been great, because there's, organizations that I directly have created the opportunities in, and then I've kind of partnered with different organizations kind of throughout the US and different countries. My dream is to have opportunities in every city and to even be able to have it dialed down by passion. So if you are a identifying woman that wants to help other women that are trying to get jobs or are homeless or whatever, great. Here's Dress for Success. They help identifying women, and you can kind of find that kind of niche or that passion of, who you want to actually be helping and how that looks. But if the website can't connect you quite yet, because it is growing and we just started and everything, there is I would encourage people to do what I do and just, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but once you first do it and everything, just realize that everyone can be benefited by a haircut. And I learned from the very first organization that I got involved in, when I was kind of receiving a good amount of praise from some of the people that work there, I kind of said, it's just a haircut. It doesn't cost me any money to go in there to give someone a haircut. I already have all the tools. I don't have to pay for any of these things. I just come in there, I show up, and that's it. And then, of course, I learned very quickly that it's so much more than just a haircut. It's conversation. It's people feeling heard and loved and seen. And it's just so incredibly impactful to where there's just so much opportunity, and the opportunity is everywhere. And most people have hair. Some of us don't, but most of us do. And so there's just such a need for it in general, that it's just, don't let something stop you. If you can't find something locally, if you try to find a nonprofit and you try to find something and it's just not quite there, my recommendation would be find out what would be the most helpful to you. Portland is, going through a kind of a homeless crisis currently that a lot of people are aware of. And so when people ask me, where can you help the most? I would say, yeah, the homeless population is definitely hurting the most right now. And that's the most of the opportunities that are happening here in the Portland area. And so find an organization in your area, wherever you're at, that is doing something that you feel passionate about, and just go in there. Just say, hey, I do hair, and how would you feel about me coming in here? And I've been outside with a foldable chair, that's not the most ideal, because of course we learn from our awesome educations to hand and body position and all of that is super important. But, obviously you can also get by with just a foldable chair and the very, very bare, basics of doing something. And I've been lucky enough to be very humbled by what I personally have done is I'll go on to, used marketplaces like OfferUp and Facebook Market and Craigslist, and I'll find salon equipment. I'll find barber chairs and, salon chairs that are hydraulic and everything. And I reach out to the people and I say, hey, my name's Mykal, and this is what I plan on doing with your chair. I've created this many haircutting programs. This is the audience that it would serve. Would you consider giving me this chair to go to this cause? And I've gotten a good amount of no's, but I've also gotten a lot of yeses. And so I'll get people that will just give me things like chairs and mirrors. And I just make a little makeshift little station, if you will, a lot of time inside of these nonprofits. That's just a chair and a mirror and an anti-fatigue mat and, maybe some products. And then I just set up a schedule with them of, hey, I'm going to come in here every week, or I can only come in here twice, a month, or whatever it may be. And that's it. It's been a little too easy, if you will, because there's just such a need for it.
Absolutely.
It really is.
You said something that you kind of touched on, but I want you to jump just a little more deeper in that you believe in the transformative power of your craft, which is an awareness often overlooked by many hairstylists. So I'd love for you to talk just a little bit more about that.
Yeah. If once you're in the hair industry for long enough, I feel like, a lot of time it is part of the beauty industry. And one of the big benefits, of course, is at the end of the day, you're helping someone feel better about themselves. You're helping someone feel, more handsome, more beautiful, whatever that looks like, kind of thing. And so that's always been something that has always really resonated with me, that I've always really connected with. And I feel so lucky to have a skill that can really touch someone on that type of basis. But then on top of that, the conversations that a lot of time can happen with, people sharing their story. I mean, we're in the relationship business at the end of the day. We're connecting with people. And if you're doing things, hopefully right, you're building a relationship, you're finding out about their life and their family, and hopefully that's a relationship that's long term, to where you get to really connect with that person for a long time. The only when you're in the nonprofit world, of course, people open up to you about just, of course, things that maybe you don't hear quite as often, or it takes a little bit longer to hear about when you're in the salon world, because it can be a little bit more private. You find out about, what it's like to be in shelters, or what it's like to be in a domestic violence relationship, or just lots of different things. And so it's so much more than just a haircut. At the end of the day, of course, it's about making that person feel better. I meet people all day, every day, that have never had a professional service before, or it's been 10 plus years since they've been able to have their hair done because of circumstances with their life has just not made it an opportunity for them. And so not only can you make a huge impact with just that haircut that you give them, but on top of that, again, people just sometimes all they need is an ear just to be heard, or a hug, or their feelings validated, or just, again, a conversation. And it is so incredibly transformative, to see these people break down and cry and feel so incredibly touched by, not only the service that you gave them, and again, that you gave, at the end of the day, you were in there just giving your service away that normally costs people money and everything that they're not able to actually afford. But on top of that, you're just treating them as a human, just like we all are, right? At the end of the day, we all just want to connect with each other and feel loved, and that's it.
Absolutely.
Your nonprofit is just exactly what we're really all about. And so I love this interview so much, but I want to go back a little bit, because when you were first talking, you were saying you just weren't finding that joy, because when we really look at it at the end of the day, us as human beings, unless the true happiness comes from giving back. Right. And I've always said giving is the highest form of living. And I've had a lot of hairstylists over the years that just quit doing their craft. I think it's because of not giving back. I really do. And I think what a great nonprofit for every salon in the world to get involved with, because now all of a sudden you have this opportunity to start giving back. And so talk a little bit about your dream of what you would love to see happen across the nation, Mykal, but also talk a little bit about what it really does for your psyche to give back, because like Sean said, sometimes our students, I think, they say no because they're afraid. They're fearful of being around a homeless person or someone that has been abused. They have this fear, right? And so us as school owners, as school leaders, it's our job to put them in those environments, because you never know, it'll probably change their life just like it has yours. So talk a little bit about this, like the scientific proof of this, because there is a lot of scientific proof of how it can really affect you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an amazing point. I think that for me, it's my story might be a little bit different than other people's stories, but I know that when I was really struggling for the first few years of being in the hair industry, you're going to have the growing pains in general, of course, when you first get out there. They always say that it's not as easy as you think, and that you've definitely got to put in the effort to build and create those relationships, and it's going to take, time, and there's no set right or wrong answer to how that looks, but it's not going to be that you just graduate, you get licensed, and then all of a sudden the money's coming in, you're busy. Right. It's unfortunately just an unrealistic expectation. And hopefully you're at least in the right environment where you've got a team atmosphere, you got the right type of leaders, and everything around you can really help build you up. Me personally, I really struggled to find those right environments in the beginning. Earlier years of my career was just not necessarily in team orientated types of environments where you were being built up. It was kind of the opposite of being knocked down a little bit, and then also just not really having that leadership at all either to continue to educate yourself and learn your craft and get better, but to just feel supported at the end of the day. And so I know that, at least again, my story is that I just felt very lost and felt like this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't, to me, the vain, sometimes there's a little bit more vain, egocentric types of things that can happen being involved in the beauty industry. And it didn't quite align with my personal values and characteristics and all those types of things. And so to me, I just really kind of circled back to that feeling of when I was lucky enough to be working with the shelters in the school, which I'm so thankful that I somehow came up with that idea. Because for me, in that moment, it actually really saved me from stopping and just not doing hair anymore. Because even though I was still able to have some of those beautiful moments, because at the end of the day, it really should be about the client, the person that's in your chair, that your guest that you're connecting with and you're building that relationship, is at least what was continuing to motivate me to, continue on. But when I was having those moments of thinking, I just don't think that this is quite what I signed up for and doesn't quite align with what I was looking for, it was getting involved and giving back and being reminded that, man, I am so lucky to have a craft that is so impactful to someone and can really make someone feel so much better about themselves, physically, emotionally, mentally. I mean, the power of it is just incredible. And so the volunteering for me is literally what saved me from leaving the hair industry altogether. And I don't even know what I would have done, necessarily if I would have left, kind of thing. And so I'm so thankful that, my heart kind of drove me to kind of find that space. And then it just continued to ground me, and it continued to remind me, no, I am so happy I became a hairstylist. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I kind of went off from that. But to answer your question about, if you're feeling really nervous about getting involved and that type of stuff, I'll share my kind of first time that I got involved with a homeless organization. It was in downtown Portland. And it was, I remember, of course, having a little pushback in my mind where I thought, I just don't know if I'm going to be safe, and is it going to be risky, and what am I signing up for? Because what I was doing in the past with Dress for Success was a lot more of a controlled environment. It was by appointment only. It was indoors. I had a salon chair. It was just a lot more salon-like and a lot more controlled, and it felt a lot more safe. And so when I decided that I wanted to get involved with the homeless community and everything, I had a lot of inner demons kind of trying to talk me out of it, you could say. And so when I went to go to the organization, it was actually a place that already does haircuts, believe it or not, is something that they offer. And they get together at night under one of the main bridges in the Portland area. And so I went to find this organization, and I'm in one of the worst kind of areas in the downtown area. I can't find parking. The maps that it's leading me to the organization, I can't find the organization, and everything, the devil on my shoulder is telling me, well, it's just not meant to be, because this is just turning into being very difficult to even find the place, find the parking. And I just was finding every reason to just say, well, this is taking a long time. I can't quite get in there. And so maybe it's just not meant to be. Thankfully, I kept, pushing through those feelings, and I parked. I walked around and I found this. It was kind of like a hidden door, to be honest with you, and had to go through an orientation for this specific organization. And afterwards, everyone walks together. I mean, hundreds of volunteers come together for this specific organization. And it's just this huge event that they put on underneath the bridge, where they provide food and clothing and sleeping bags and everything. And then they've got a haircutting station. And I will tell you, it was one of the best decisions I have ever made, was pushing through all of that, all those negative, unknown, uncertain feelings that I was going through that were talking me out of getting involved with that specific community, because I feel so ignorant saying this, but it was so enlightening to, again, just realize that at the end of the day, we are all exactly the same. It's just different circumstances. And that is it. And it felt so silly having that realization of, I don't know what I had created in my mind that would create so much fear as far as getting involved with the homeless community. But it was just every person that sat in my chair that night, I had conversations with, just like we're having a conversation. It was a very quote unquote normal conversation, where I was doing the hair just like I was in the salon, except for I was outside at night. And it was amazing. And I could tell that the people were so incredibly grateful that I was there volunteering my time, volunteering my services, and was just having conversation. And what a lot of people forget is homeless people very much feel invisible all the time. You know, the people that are out on the streets and you walk by them. I've been guilty of being that person that has just walked by someone and not even acknowledged them or anything. And I've just, when everything happened with the pandemic and things got a little worse with the drugs and different things here in the Portland area specifically. So I didn't have the opportunity. I had to stop kind of giving back to the homeless community a lot of the time because of the opportunities kind of went away for a time being. But then I decided to push back through those feelings again because I wanted to get involved with the homeless community. And I was a little bit nervous, being very transparent and everything, just because it has very much changed and escalated in a little bit more, not a little bit actually, a lot of it more of an unsafe type of feeling here in the Portland area. And I kept pushing myself and said, you know what, there's such a need for it. I'm going to go into some of these nonprofits that I know that are making a huge impact in the crisis that's happening here in Portland, and do the same thing I've done in the past, introduce myself and say, how can I get involved? And again, it has been the biggest eye-opening experience where it's, again, I got to tell, and I feel so silly, but they are just people just like you and I. They're just people with different circumstances that are very unfortunate. And I'm telling you, one of the best things that you can do is to push through that uncertainty, and just, it's everything that we create in our minds or that we see on the streets are very big extremes. Yeah. And once you get involved, you'll just realize that it's whatever you created in your mind was just so much bigger and so much different than actuality. And the moment that you do it and you just give that very first haircut to that first person, you'll realize, wow, I'm so happy that I pushed through that. And your heart will feel so incredibly full. And I promise you will not regret it. So do it.
Yeah, I love that, because that's, every time I ask my students, that are just starting in our school, I'll say, what does success mean to you? And they say happiness. And I'm like, okay, then you need to be a part of our Be Nice clubs, because you need to be able to give back, because that's going to give you the true happiness, and you're living proof of that. Right. And so I love this so much, because what just kind of came to mind was, even because we have 4 salons and growing, and thinking of brand new stylists that are really struggling with low self-esteem and confidence. And I'm thinking, wow, we need to get involved with your nonprofit, because it would be a safe, opportunity for them to, go on the tail end of a nonprofit and to get involved. So talk to salons out there, talk to salon owners, why they should get involved with this, how this is a good business opportunity for them to be able to help their hairstylists as well. And how can we get involved? Like, what's the first step?
Yeah. Also another great question, Tina. Thank you. I would say what you can do is, so the biggest thing that you can do, of course, as a salon to get involved as an owner and everything, is just build the value behind giving back. I mean, if you're, again, as a stylist and you've been working behind the chair, you've seen the power and the transformation of what it's like to help the people that can afford to have the services paid for and everything. So since you already know how incredibly impactful it is to connect with your guest that's in your chair in that moment, and you get to see those transformations on the daily basis of providing haircuts and hair color services. Just know, if you haven't personally experienced it, that it's only on a bigger spectrum, of course, when you are out giving back to people that are in different circumstances that are not able to afford these services, or maybe they've never been able to have a professional type of service done. On top of that, you really hit the nail on the head by saying, it's a confidence booster. When you're new and you're starting out and everything, of course, you're worried. You're constantly trying to think, am I good enough? Do I have the skills? Do I know exactly what I'm doing? And I'm sure the majority of hairstylists and salon owners out there will always say that even if you've been doing hair for years and years and years, you still can be surprised. You still can be surprised with how that color formula didn't quite work out, or how that haircut might have not turned out exactly how you wanted, or there's always that growth opportunity, and there's always that continued education piece. And so giving back and getting involved in different nonprofits and different events that are out there that are happening, it's an opportunity to be behind the chair and to be practicing your craft at the end of the day, just like when you're behind the chair in a salon, with people that are beyond grateful for your service. And a lot of the ways that you can, try to get involved is, of course, go to our website. Right now, we've got partnerships with at least 22 organizations. Some of them have more than one location, but it's 22 organizations we're currently at. And we're kind of spread throughout 26 different locations and cities. Some of those are in, I want to say 5 or 6 different countries, and, Thailand and Australia. And, there's different international types of opportunities that are also out there. And thankfully we have an ability to, you can submit an organization through our website to be considered to be added to our list of opportunities for people. So if there's nonprofits that are out there, or events or organizations that are out there, they're able to submit kind of a short little application as far as who they serve, what they do, and what does that haircutting program look like? Do they have a program in place? Do they not have a program? And then that just helps us be able to get a better idea as far as what would that opportunity look like for a hairstylist that's going to be getting involved. Are you going to be outside on the street with a foldable chair and you're bringing your own tools, or are you going to be going to a organization that has a hydraulic chair and a mirror and has tools for you, and you just show up and all you got to do is just be a rock star and do what you normally do, and that's it. And so that's been great because it's been helping us grow and get bigger, and the dream is to be everywhere, and in every city and in all the different countries. And it's a very daunting dream, of course, because the world is a very big place. But I know in my heart that there is everyone needs haircuts, and also there's nonprofits all around the world that are doing really amazing things. And so as a salon owner, that confidence that you can build or help build with some of these newer hairstylists and everything. But there's also opportunities to hold give back events inside of your salon, and so instead of partnering with an actual nonprofit organization, there's the opportunities to just create your own kind of event inside of your salon that would be, essentially a beauty give back type of day, where you could only have certain stylists that are involved if you still want to be able to have some money, of course, coming in, which keeps the lights on. Or if you're able to, you can do a whole give back day where the salon's closed to your regular guests that would be coming in there, and whoever wanted to get involved as your team could get involved. And then you could work with different nonprofits and reach out to different nonprofits, or even connect with us to see if there's a way that we can help fill those chairs, and then have the people come to you. And of course, there's a huge need for it. And I know that there's salons that are already out there doing things like that, where they're able to host, different types of give back events. And at the end of the day, not only is it a great experience for the stylists that are involved, but it's also a really great experience for you as a salon owner and your salon to be able to give back to your community. Because, at the end of the day, people are always trying to build that network and build that, build the business in general. And so it's a really great way to build the business and be more connected in the community at the end of the day. And people want to get behind that, of course. New guests are looking, when you have social media nowadays, I always tell people all the time, what is it about you, or what is it about your salon that's different than the one that's probably a block down the street? Because there are so many talented hairstylists and barbers and everything that are out there that are doing amazing work, that it really is all about you. It's you and what you can offer as a human being to these people that are sitting in your chair. But it's also, what is it about your salon that is different from the salon that's a block down the street from here? What is it that's a different experience that I can't necessarily get, somewhere else very easily?
Yeah.
And so it's a really great way that also kind of separates you at the end of the day, that because there are so many salons that have no idea just how powerful and impactful giving back is.
For sure.
Yeah, I want, as we start to end this out, I want to go back to when you were saying in the beginning, because I think some incredible salon owners lost an incredible opportunity with you. And I think if they would
Thank
have
you.
had something like this, a business plan of giving back, you would have been like, I'm all in. And I think this is what's happening actually across the nation with a lot of our graduates, because they've become disenchanted because things like this are not offered in the salon of giving back. And so I think it's just a good business plan. I think you've really opened up my eyes to see the big importance in this today. And I think people listening are saying, you know what, I need to add this into my business plan as well, because I don't want to lose people like Mykal to be in my salon. So talk to salon owners that you've been wanting to tell maybe for years, and what they need to do to be able to attract somebody like you or that next generation hairstylist, because a lot of salon owners are telling us they're really frustrated because of a lot of students across the nation are jumping into salon suites instead of going into their salons. And so what advice would you give to salon owners so they can attract the next generation hairstylists? And we call this Next Level Salon podcast. And so what is the next level that salon owners need to go to attract?
Be different, be different, set yourself apart from all the competition. And like we're touching base on is, at least in my own personal experience, I personally haven't had the opportunity to be in any salon, barbershop, anything that is doing any kind of community outreach. There are not the opportunities that I personally have been able to find within the salons that see the value in giving back to the communities, because again, I mean, it's so much bigger than just the homeless. There's so much more that's out there that is where people are in need. And so it's such a huge, wide spectrum of ways that you can get involved, where, like I said, if it's, you can do that beauty give back event every once in a while, whether it's, once a quarter that you host something and you do some marketing through, social media and your hairstylist. Obviously, I mean, social media is just so powerful nowadays that it just takes a little bit of a graphic to create, and, some other people reposting things. And, you could easily just start a give back event and start planning it a couple months in advance and be posting about it. Word will travel. And then boom, you've got this day that, all of a sudden, different people that are in need are showing up, and you're able to give back. You can connect with local news stations. You can connect with different nonprofits. It's so easy to find a nonprofit, find contact information through email, phone number, social media, and just reach out and say, hey, my name's Tina, and I've got this awesome salon, and we're looking to get involved and want to see if there's a way that we can somehow partner and with your community that you're serving, and figure out if there's a way that we can somehow get these people to this location so that we can help. And I'm in the process, right now, actually, with Salon Services to host an event where they want to partner with me so that we can get back to the community. They wanted to know, what's the biggest need? And I said, well, in Portland, of course, there's the homeless crisis. And so we're kind of trying to organize that and everything. And, you've got Uber, you've got so many things that are out there where, think big and just realize that at the end of the day, people want to help. That's what's so great, is people usually want to help. And so there's ways that you can reach out to these different organizations. If transportation is an issue, contact taxi organizations and shuttle organizations and Uber and Lyft, and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to host this event. Would you be willing to participate in this? And again, you might get some no's, but you'll also be surprised and be humbled by that people want to help. And there's going to be a way that you can somehow organize something. If it's too hard to host something at your own salon, again, reach out to a nonprofit and just say, hey, I've got a salon, I've got 10 stylists. We would love to get involved and help the homeless people that you serve. Is there a way that we can host like a give back day? And what would that look like? Again, at the bare minimum, you get a couple foldable tables, you get 10 foldable chairs, and you show up with your tools, and boom, you got a day of haircuts. And it's just so much easier than you think. And that apart, is I would have loved to have been able to get involved with, or had a team and had leadership that was happening in a salon where there was that value with, using your craft to make a positive impact, because it is so incredibly impactful. Just like you're saying, you know, if you're working for yourself and you're in one of these suites, which I've actually done also, is you know, it's a different environment. It's an environment that you can control and do whatever you want. And so if you're able to be innovative and do some things that are not quite as common, and especially give back, I mean, it's a win-win to the hairstylists and attracting people, but your community, your business, I mean, you can't go wrong with it for sure.
Can't go wrong with it.
No,
What's
you
the
can't go
best
wrong
way
with
to
it. You
get
can only do right with it.
Only do right. Yeah. So what's the best way to get a hold of you? And thanks again, Mykal, for being on the podcast today.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate the opportunity to shine a little bit more of a spotlight on Hairstylists for Humanity and just talk more about the value of giving back. I could talk about it all day, every day to anyone and everyone, because it's just something I'm super passionate about. You can go to the website, of course, hairstylist, www.hairstylist with an S, hairstylist for humanity.org. And take a look at some of our organizations that we already have on there. Like I said, we are growing. The website's actually only been up for a couple months, and so it's a little bit newer. Yeah, a little bit newer, but continuing to grow. You can reach out through email at info@hairstylistforhumanity.org. And then you can find us on social media, of course, at Hairstylists for Humanity, as well as our kind of social media handles on Instagram. And I have been very much slacking on doing anything on TikTok and that type of stuff, but I'm trying to be the jack of all trades currently, but we're very active on Instagram and that type of thing. And so, yeah, we get people that direct message us on Instagram or email us with even those questions. I've had people say, you know, I want to get involved and I don't know how, and feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to share more of my story or try to help however I can. Being newer, there's not a lot of financial support that I can offer. I'm hoping to be able to get to a place where it gets so big that, you know, financial support can be offered, tools can be offered, all sorts of different things can be offered to help make it even easier to get involved. And, you know, a lot of people have the questions as far as, you know, I have to work and have to earn money. And so how do I find the time to get involved? And it's like, unfortunately, you either get involved or you don't, you know, and because a lot of the time you're volunteering, just like it sounds, you know, but I've been able to find that organizations, they see value in these services. And so it might not be the easiest to just fall into, but based on my own experience, you can get paid through these organizations to be going in there and giving services. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there to either just, you know, volunteer. I tell people, if you're only getting involved one time a year and you give away one haircut, that's one more than you did last year. Right. You know, start small and volunteer for a couple hours. You know, you don't have to give up a whole entire day off, you know, give away 2 haircuts or whatever it may be. And then you'll see so much value in it that you're going to be, you know, kind of scratching your head like, I got to get more involved and I want to do this again. And at the end of the day, when you find that passion and you see how it fills your heart, you'll find out, you know, you figure out a way to set aside some of that time and see the value in it. And the more you do it, the more you attract it, and the more it will somehow come together and work out. And that's it.
I love it. Thank you, Mykal. Yeah. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. No, appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mykal. Have a good day.
Hey, thank you. You guys do the same.